So this story happened about 11 years ago. I was a senior in high school at the time, but it's the single most mind-boggling thing that I have ever experienced. It's also important to note that it happened in mid-December. I'm from Iowa, and the winters here get cold at night. Like if you get stuck outside, you will die kinda cold. That plus the snowfall makes everything dead silent. You can hear anything and everything inside the house, and even immediately outside of it. While me and my best friend were hanging out in my family's walkout basement, just having a boring winter night playing video games, we were also the only ones home. The reason it was just us is because my mother went from work straight to a bar to grab a few drinks with coworkers, so me and my friend thought that it would be a good idea to break into the family wine and live a little. As we were sitting there opening up the first bottle, I hear the door to the garage open and slam shut. I immediately go, "Oh crap," and start looking for places to hide the bottle. My friend then says, "I thought you said your mom was supposed to be out all night." "She was," I replied. I then heard a few heavy stomps and hear my mother yell out, "Meows and Boo? Anyone home?" I yell back up the stairs, "Yep, just hanging out in the basement." I hear a few more steps move from the garage door towards the stairs, and she yells out again, "Can you come help me with something? I need you up here." I reply back while frantically trying to find a good place to hide the wine bottle, "Yup, just give me a minute." Then there was silence for about 20 seconds. "Anyone down there with you?" She yelled back in a more concerned, serious tone, in a voice that was slightly off of my mother's. This was the first thing that told me something wasn't right. Our family never cared if anyone was over, as our house was a very open house to all family and friends. And the voice, it was just wrong. Like, it sounded like my mother's, but it was missing something that I couldn't put my finger on. So, weirded out, I reply back, "Just Colton." After I yelled that back to her, I found a good place to hide the bottle and began walking up the steps to the next level. Now, as I was walking up the steps, I couldn't help but feel the overbearing silence of the house and the slight electric twinge that something isn't right. When I got to the top of the steps, I look over to where the door to the garage is, and also the kitchen right next to it, and it's black, pitch black. All of the lights were off, and there was no moonlight shining through any windows. I walked over to the kitchen yelling out, "Mom, where are you?" There was no reply, just silence and darkness. I feel the electric twinge turn into full needles, and my adrenaline kicking in full force. I have to get out of here as fast as possible. My mother was not home. I run back down the stairs, grabbing my coat along the way. "Hey, what's wrong?" Colton says. I reply as fast as I can, "My mom's not home." I start looking for my truck keys. "What do you mean? You were just talking with her." And now I can see the confusion in his face. "There's no one home, Colton. We need to leave now." So I took a few steps towards the back door that opens up to the yard, and then I see my dog shaking on the couch and my cat growling behind it. I couldn't leave them. I just knew that if we left, something would happen. "Are we leaving?" Colton said, still confused. I said, "No, I can't leave them here alone. Something is really off. I'm going to call my mom and figure this out." I pull up my phone and call my mom. She picks up immediately. "Meows and Boo? What's going on?" "Mom, were you just home?" I heard you yelling for me from the second level, and when I went up, you weren't there." I was saying this frantically, hoping that she was playing a joke. No, I'm just leaving the bar. I wasn't feeling very well. Are you okay? What do you mean, you heard me?" I fill her in on the whole story and she rushes home. Colton and I stayed in the basement with the animals until she got home. But before she did, you could hear something upstairs. Not walking or sitting on things, but a pressure in the air. Like a black hole was slowly moving from one room to the next. And the word that I would instinctively describe it as is hungry. When she got home, you could feel the thing leave just as quick as it came. Like an overbearing, predatory presence had just flown away. We still have never figured out what the heck was going on. And this is just one story of many unexplainable things that have happened to us. But this is the easiest to write down, and one that I was happy to have a witness. My mother has passed away now, and I've moved away to Arizona. But whenever I go back to Iowa and I see Colton, he still gets creeped out by what had happened. I will never truly know what happened, but I know that whatever it was that had my mother's voice, it was evil, and it was hungry. This is probably the creepiest, most unexplainable thing that has ever happened to me. I used to work overnight as a security guard at the local port. Usually, none of the port workers would stay overnight, except for the safety official. I wouldn't be on shift alone, since the site has a radius of nearly 2 miles. Overnight, usually there were probably 3 guards, including me. Since the area was fairly big, there were different posts, but front gate was the main entrance area, where all of the guards would be stationed overnight, since there was no need to put them in the other posts due to the fact that there was no activity in the site at this time. The veteran guards that have been there for years would often say that the site was haunted, given the fact that there have been accidents and deaths that occurred in the area a long time ago. I was aware that people died there due to freak accidents, and I do believe in angels and demons, since I'm actually a religious person, but I always thought that the superiors were just messing with the new guys. I would work 5 to 6 nights out of the week, and for the first few weeks, I never really saw or heard anything out of the ordinary, except for maybe a few questionable creaks, and would see a few misplaced objects while doing my patrol rounds, but nothing too crazy. Just to describe the setting to you, this is a fairly big site, and on occasions, when there were big projects being constructed at the port, the workers would sometimes stay overnight. Due to the fact that there were times where port workers were required to stay at the port for a few days, there's a gym in the site for their convenience. The gym is fairly old. In the gym, there's a sauna, weights, and even a racquetball court. If you don't know what a racquetball court is, it's similar to an indoor tennis court with thin plastered walls and thick glass doors. Usually on our patrol rounds, me and one of the other guards, Mike, would stop by the gym and play a few rounds of racquetball before returning back to the front gate. On one of those nights, me and Mike decided to hit a full workout instead of playing racquetball in the cage. This is around 2:30 a.m., and the entire building is so quiet that you can hear the electricity running through the limits. The air conditioner is off, and so is everything else. The only thing that's running are the lights. 15 to 20 minutes into the workout, we hear a loud thump. We crossed it off as nothing and continued working out. Then, after a few more minutes, we heard the loud thump once more. At first we thought it was our lieutenant, which could have been walking around, but then we radioed him and he gave us his location, which was front gate. We tried thinking logically on what could be making those thumps on the wall. They were coming from the court on the other side. We thought it was the air conditioner, but then we remembered that it was off, and even when it's switched on during the day, there's no reports of thumps coming from that air conditioner. After a few more minutes, the thumps started occurring one right after another. We were very creeped out at this point, but what we were about to witness still scares the absolute crap out of me till this day. We started to approach the other side of the gym, to where the glass door was. We turned on the flashlight and aimed it towards the clear glass door, and I got chills all over my body, and I started tearing so much out of fear that I was about to cry. We saw one of the balls rolling slowly by itself inside the court, but there was no one in there. So that means the loud thumps were the balls mysteriously being tossed against the wall, as if someone or something was playing inside the cage. We were both so confused and frightened to how this was really happening. We couldn't make sense of any of it. We were scared and we started yelling and running away because we knew that there was probably something evil toying with us right there. And as we sprinted full speed back to the front gate, the lieutenant saw us and asked why we were tearing and running in a ridiculous manner. We told him what we would witness, and his facial expression scared us even more. He then said, "That's why there's always guards that quit often. There's something evil in the area, and it's not the first time that something that bad has happened here." He then showed us security footage of dark figures and shadows literally passing through the office area, and lights mysteriously switching on and off. Till this day, I still get chills recounting my experience with my friends and family, and I'm even getting chills right now as I'm typing this. I had never had a real encounter with the supernatural until that night. Many say that it was a demonic presence messing around. Others say it was a ghost of a dead person who died in the area. I don't know what it was, but I didn't last long in that job after that. There were other experiences, but that's for another time. I know that I post quite a bit. I'm just bored at work, and I occupy myself by telling y'all my unexplainable, creepy experiences. This experience is rather short, but it's another one at the local port. For more context on the setting, take a read of my other security night shift experiences on my profile or on the subreddit, if you can find them. Well, long story short, for those of you who never really knew, I used to work night shifts as a security guard at the local port. It was haunted, believe me. Anyway, every night, we had to go do our patrol rounds around the whole perimeter and check every single office. The rounds usually lasted about an hour to an hour and 30 minutes. The place was huge, about a 2-mile radius, and even with 2 of us on the rounds, it would still take us quite a while. If you all remember my coworker, Mike, the guy who was with me on my other experiences, had called in sick that night. So, I went on my patrol rounds alone. As for the lieutenant, he stayed at the front gate post, watching his anime and cameras. Around 2 a.m., I had finished the outdoor round in the truck. Sometimes we used a 4-wheeler or a bike. So, after finishing the outside round, I would have to go inside of every single building and check the offices to make sure no office employee stayed overnight and, in case there's an intruder or trespasser on the property. The buildings were really dark inside. The maintenance man would shut off the breakers in the box right before he'd leave. Unfortunately, security did not have access to those keys. Therefore, I had to use my flashlight to light up the hallways and offices. The offices alone were creepy and haunted enough due to the old age. The fact that I had to walk around those buildings alone in the dark creeped me right out. It's dead quiet in there, that you could hear my steel-toed boots echo through the hallways. The next part is a blur because I began to get chills and hyperventilate. So, as I'm walking through the dark office hallways, I began to hear a scratching-like sound on the walls right next to me. I stopped to listen, but the nails stopped as well. I thought it was probably just me. So I continued walking, and I stopped dead in my tracks because the scratching sound began to get louder this time. I knew that it was nothing normal, but rather something evil or demonic toying with me, because this isn't the first time something this freaky happens to me here, and I just came out of those offices. There wasn't anyone in there. So at this point, my heart is racing, and I'm right in the middle of the building with the nearest exit being on the other side of the building. Next, I hear pounding on the wall and I begin to sprint out on adrenaline. The pounding followed me to the end of the hallway. This put me on edge for the rest of the night. When I entered another hallway, it stopped. It sounded huge and I tried calling the lieutenant to report it, but the phone signal in the offices was complete trash. I didn't even bother to finish the round because I was almost going to pass out of anxiety. I went back to the front gate and wrote a report on it. I didn't even write a report on my other experiences, but I was getting fed up with this. So for the first time in my life, I wrote a report on the paranormal. No, I don't believe it was something logical because those punches were unbelievably loud. Like whatever was banging on the wall was not human. I mean, I couldn't even stomp that loud if I tried. And side note, I'm a big dude. I weigh 227 pounds. I couldn't even stomp that loud. I tried it the next day that Mike went with me. I train in powerlifting and there's only one person in the world who's ever truly scared me. I'm not afraid of other people, but this paranormal or demonic stuff scares the absolute crap out of me. I have photos of the things I saw in my Snapchat memories. Let me see if I can upload them for you. But I got 2 more experiences, but that's also for another time.